Man, here we are again. Thanksgiving is over. Oh, it was so good. Wait, did I actually tell Grandma thank you before I left? Huh, I think I did. Wait, did I leave that box of cookies behind or did Uncle Gary grab it? He probably grabbed it. He always grabs it. Oh, man, I really shouldn't have had that third slice of pie or any pie. Why do I always eat so much pie? Why is pie so good? Well, we have pie at Christmas dinner. Christmas! I can't believe it's already Advent. Christmas is right around the corner. I'm so excited. What should I get Dad for Christmas? I'll ask Mom. She knows everything. I wonder what she wants for Christmas. More pie? I want pie. No, maybe a gift certificate. When can I go pick that up? Tonight after work? No, I have that meeting. Maybe tomorrow during lunch. No, we're having the holiday party then. What should I wear to that? Oh, that sweater. No, I need it clean because I spilled my pie. Maybe I'll swing by the store for something new. When can I get to the store? After work? Oh, right, I have that meeting. Wait, what was I just gonna do? I mean, I really enjoy this season. It's one of my favorites, but well, for a season that's all about peace on earth, peace seems so not here. Or maybe it's that I'm not here. Maybe it's a great irony not being present to the presence of God within myself and in everyone. Peace on earth. Here we are again, here, now. It feels good to just take a breath, to be present. All right, now let's enjoy this most wonderful time of the year.
Two weeks until Christmas, people. Like 2 weeks from today is Christmas Eve. We know this, right? Okay? You're with me? Ooh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's kind of how I feel about it too. Woo! But okay, here we go. So I wonder, has your brain sounded anything like this example of my brain in this past week? So this video, again, is meant to capture a bit about how all of our brains work, something that we experience very profoundly in Advent because we're just drawn into all the Christmases past, and so we're thinking about all the great things that have been in the past, but we're also constantly thinking of all the things that are to come. We're playing through the plans, the shopping, the eating, the pie that is to come, so we're pulled in either direction, and yet we know that it's not just Advent that is that way, right? We've been naming how Advent is just an intense microcosm of the larger reality of our lives, that any time of the year, on any day, any moment, we're almost always somewhere else. But the invitation of the Jesus story that it offers us, and what we're really pressing into then this Advent, is this most wonderful time of the year, is we want to be people who are present, who are here now, who experience our experiences. And if we can do that during Advent, man, bring on the rest of the year, right? So that's why we're doing that. So we're going to, in a few minutes, we're going to review some of those practices that we've been naming to help us to be people of Christmas present. But first, all kinds of good things for us today. You ready? Are you here right now? Okay, all right. Wiggle your toes, feel your feet in your shoes. Be here, feel your buns in your chair. All right, we're here. Cool. So today, we begin. We're going to just turn right to a piece of the Bible like we do each week, letting the Jesus story inform then this Advent journey. The text that we are going to read will be read by most mainline churches around the world on the third Sunday of Advent, and it's from 1 Thessalonians. 1 Thessalonians is a letter written by the Apostle Paul. He wrote it while he was in the city of Corinth to the Christians then in Thessalonica. 1 Thessalonians is considered the oldest book in the New Testament. So the first book that was written in the New Testament is believed to have been written in the year 50. So Jesus has not yet even been gone for 20 years. And in this letter, then, Paul has been kind of where I'm setting up where we're getting to. So he's been laying out just central ways in which people can learn the life of Jesus, what that looks like for this young community. And so first, he encourages them to listen to the leadership, the teaching in their community, to trust leadership, but then also naming how the care and the influence of the whole community is important, as they are people who look out for each other, who strengthen each other whenever necessary. And then we get to this final little list, kind of like a list of practices, mindsets, behaviors that can help Jesus followers kind of build that muscle memory of becoming people who are embodying this life of Jesus. So Paul begins this list then with the theme of this third Sunday of Advent. It says, rejoice always. So joy is the first thing that he names. I've actually chosen a different translation, so it won't say rejoice always, but that's the sentiment that's there. So this is our reading. As always, I invite you to really actively engage your brain as we listen to this. Let this be God's word for you, for us, together. This list of life practices. Come on up, Greg. So 1 Thessalonians 5, 16 through 24.
Always celebrate. Never stop praying. In everything, be thankful. This is God's will for you in the Messiah Jesus. Don't quench the Spirit. Don't look down on prophecies. Test everything. If something is good, hold it fast. If something looks evil, keep well away. Now, may the God of peace himself make you completely holy. May your complete spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus, the Messiah. The one who calls you is faithful. He will do it.
Thank you, Greg. So I do want to celebrate this theme that we have for this third Sunday, and really just dig into this first phrase when Paul says, always celebrate. Other translations, so I put up, so that's from the Kingdom New Testament by N.T. Wright, that's what we just read. So always celebrate. In another version, NIV, it says rejoice always. In another version, it says be cheerful no matter what. So I want you to look at that list and just kind of check in with yourself a little bit. On a scale of 1 to 10, generally speaking, how good are you at always celebrating, rejoicing always, being cheerful no matter what? Show me what you got, people. Scale of 1 to 10. I know I sit there going, yeah, let's always celebrate. But then, like, life happens. My children are cranky. I'm cranky. We're all cranky. So where would you place yourself? I see a commitment to number 4 over here. Anyone else want to commit? It's just for fun. Just anyone else? I got a 2. I got a 6. 7. Ooh, and 7, yeah. It's fun. Yeah, what I know of many of you, I was like, yeah, that works. Okay, cool. So, right, given how most of us are, most of the time, Paul's words here, well, they feel a little Pollyanna-ish. Do people still know Pollyanna? Is that still a reference that people know? Like, it's a novel written in 1913, but then a Disney movie years. Anyway, so Pollyanna had this like way of just seeing the world through just rose-colored lenses. So it feels that way, very sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. So it's like very, what I would say, it feels very unrealistic. Or more significantly, it feels like it's an invitation to stuff or avoid any emotions other than joy. Like we should just smile and say, yeah, I'm fine all the time, right? Just grin and bear it, guys, because that's what Jesus wants you to do. That's what it feels like to me. So I want to suggest that there's more going on here in this text than that. But I want to name that that's kind of where we start, right? Where it's like, that doesn't quite align with our reality. I'm like a 2 of 1 to 10. We often like to quote the Transformers, particularly the 1980s version, like it was for those transforming machines, there's more than meets the eye, right? There is more than meets the eye most of the time when we were reading Scripture, and that is certainly true as we begin to engage with this text. So this is what I want to dig into, like what Paul is talking about when he says always celebrate, and how we can hear that as people who are not a 10 out of 10. Okay. So to get at it, I want to take a kind of circuitous route to get there. So I have a second question for you. It's kind of similar, but different, and it's this question. Are you generally, more often, a glass half empty or a glass half empty or a glass half full kind of person? Like, which way do you usually roll? Half, yeah? Yeah? Half full? Yeah? Half empty? Got a mix? Cool. Cool. So I want to disrupt our perception of this well-known dichotomy just a little bit. I want to geek out on some research that I've heard about and I really looked into this week a little bit. So first, I want to introduce you to, maybe for the first time or just reminding you if this is something that you already know, but it's something called the negativity bias. Do you know about this? Have you heard of the negativity bias? This was a new phrase to me. If you haven't heard of it, you can probably guess what it is. So this is straight from the Wikipedia definition of negativity bias. It is this. The negativity bias, also known as the negativity effect, so listen to this, refers to the notion that even when of equal intensity, things of a more negative nature, unpleasant thoughts, emotions, or social interactions, harmful traumatic events, next slide. Okay. So the negative things have a greater effect on one's psychological state and processes than do neutral or positive things. In other words, something very positive will generally have less of an impact on a person's behavior and cognition than something equally emotional but negative. There's more. Yeah, okay. The negativity bias has been investigated within many different domains, including the formation of impressions and general evaluations, attention, learning and memory, and decision-making and risk considerations. Did you hear all that? So according to research, then it turns out we are all kind of glass half empty people most of the time. Like that is in us. I spent a lot of time this week reading research that explores this idea, and another way to say it is that neurologists, psychologists, they've come to know that our brains are like Velcro to negative experiences, but they are Teflon for the positive experiences. And if you think about our experiences, we know this. Those negative comments, the email, like we get 100 great emails, we get 2 that are just, and like that's the thing we're playing over and over at night when we're going to bed, right? Like the feedback, the mistakes, those are the things that stick with us. We will replay them for months. But the moments of like joy and goodness and like getting positive feedback, those can be so fleeting. How deeply, we'll enjoy something, but do we let it stick with us? So even though some people do have a more positive outlook, almost everyone experiences and remembers negative things more strongly and in more detail. Our brains are wired toward the negative, not the positive. We are naturally drawn to the negative. One study I read this week succinctly put it this way. They said losing money, being abandoned by friends, and receiving criticism will have a greater impact than winning money, making friends, or receiving praise. So, and again, I was a psychology major in college, so like this stuff, I'm like, oh man, this is fascinating stuff. So that's why you get to hear about it too. But just another interesting point, we tend to see people who say negative things as smarter than those who are positive people, which is interesting and a little depressing. And related, we are more likely to give greater weight to critical reviews than to positive reviews. Our brains are Velcro for the negative experiences, but Teflon for the positive ones. Are you resonating with this? So like me, you may be asking, so why is this? Like why, if that's the way our brains are, why? And why does that happen? So it's likely that as with many other quirks of the human psyche, there may be an evolutionary basis for this. It makes sense those who are more attuned to bad things would have been more likely to survive threats and consequently would have increased the probability then of actually passing along their genes. So that could be it. You're someone, if you're on the lookout for threats, then you're going to see the threat and actually survive. So that could be the reason. But whatever the reason, the bottom line, research-supported reality of our brains is that our brains are wired toward the negative, not the positive. We're naturally drawn to it. So to come back to this letter from Paul to the folks in Thessalonica, this was a community that was facing threats beyond what we can imagine. Picture who these Christians are. To be clear, they are not like this. It's not this version of Christianity, right? Things were not easy. There were no big hair and matching polyester outfits. But this is, I don't have any pictures of what they were actually looking like, but the Christians in Thessalonica, they were, they're 20 years into this movement of Jesus, and it was not safe to be a Christian. These are folks that were being persecuted for their faith. Their friends were dying as martyrs. They were experiencing violence because of their faith and their desire to follow Jesus. So this is the context, the community that Paul then writes: always celebrate, never stop praying, in everything be thankful. How much negativity, how much suffering and loss and uncertainty and fear were these Jesus followers in this community facing? Always celebrate, never stop praying, in everything be thankful. Was Paul trying to minimize their pain? Was Paul trying to get them to ignore the severity of their situation? I don't think so. I think they had the same negativity-biased brains then, too. And man, did they have every reason to stay in that space, to ruminate on the negative. And so Paul, by the grace of God, he had this insight to invite them to choose to give attention, airtime to the good things. Always celebrate, never stop praying, in everything be thankful. Choose joy. Rejoice always. Not to ignore the negative, because the negative will just keep coming, right? It will play through our brains. It will get airtime. But simply to give the positive more balance, more of a fighting chance to actually affect them. And we too, then, we get to receive these words from this letter that's 1,967 years old. We get to receive it now for us today. Even as we are far from any kind of suffering that they were facing then, we still can hear Paul's words in the context of our negativity-biased brains. We also hear this as a powerful reminder that we can choose to give attention, airtime to the good things. Always celebrate, never stop praying, and everything be thankful. Not to ignore the negative, but simply to give the positive more balance, more of a fighting chance to actually affect us. And here's the thing. So research actually supports the need for actual intentionality, like to actually willingly choose joy. We must intentionally think about attend to the positive. I'm going to show you two statistics, kind of like mapping out this Velcro versus Teflon idea. And if you hear nothing else today, I invite you to walk away with this and just ruminate on it, which you will probably do because it's kind of negative, so it'll probably stick in your brain anyway. You're welcome. So just let this sink in. When we hear bad news, it takes 3 to 4 seconds for it to go into our long-term memory. Then when we hear good news, it takes 12 to 15 seconds before it drops into our long-term memory. So what's it all mean? The good stuff only makes it into our memories, into actually affecting us when we're intentional, and hold it for 12 to 15 seconds. If we're not intentional about focusing on the good things in our lives, we automatically focus on those bad things. And the bad things will be the things that stay in our memory. Dun, dun, dun. So you got that? Is that filed away in long-term memory now? Because now we get to do the so what do we actually do about that? That's really depressing. So what do we do? Portion, we get to enter in that portion of our time. So I do want us to roll up our sleeves a little bit and see, by the grace of God, what we can do about this. So I just want to name two things, two ways of living intentionally. The great good news is well, now we know this, right? Or now we're reminded that this is the way it is. So now we know, and so here's just two things. First, we can, number one, I missed the part. No, go back, I forgot. Go back. Yeah, so it just was the point. If we get distracted before the 12 or 15 seconds is up, it does not get into our long-term memory at all. Okay, thank you. Now I'm ready. Number one. So this is what we can do. We can intentionally focus on the good things as they happen. 12 seconds, 15 if you really want to get it in there. So intentionally focus on the good things as they happen. Again, experience our experiences. We hear a word of praise or we get that email that means something to us, don't dismiss it. Focus on it, chew on it, replay it, be in it, savor the feelings that we have, that it stirs in us. With 12 seconds, we just let it slip into our long-term memory. We're having a moment of connection and like flowing conversation or side-splitting laughter with someone. Don't jump to the next thing, but stay there, focus on it. 12 seconds, let that joy slip in. We've noticed the beauty. Did you notice the amazing like sparkly frost we've had all week? And just on everything. Notice that, marvel at it while walking and driving carefully so you don't slip on the ice, but let the joy of it slip into our long-term memory. Or even just the little moments, like doing dishes after dinner, humming along to good music, the smells, the full belly, just a great evening. It's not a big deal moment, but man, it's a good one. Like that's life. Let that joy slip in. Always celebrate, Paul says. Focus on it. Savor it. Make celebration of good things a priority. Paul reminds us that our brains need us to do the work of celebrating in order to let those good, beautiful, messy moments of our lives last. So we change our focus just 12 seconds at a time. So that's the first thing that we can do. Be intentional. Spend time in those moments. Letting it get into our memories and affect our bodies too. So the second thing, we can be people who, number 2, help others savor the positive. A few weeks ago, I had a drink with Megan from the band, and I told her the statistic about needing 12 seconds, 12, 15 seconds for positive things to stick in our brains. And later in our conversation, something positive was spoken, and she was like, well, go ahead, take 12 seconds. And she just sat there and waited while I was in it, letting it sink in and experiencing how I felt. So we can be like Megan. We can be people who make space and create focus for the good, positive moments, right? Be like, no, let's just stay there. And so maybe it is the obvious, okay, I'm going to wait while you enjoy that. Or we can just, as we tell that someone is in the midst of something positive, maybe we can just keep them there. Maybe we gave them positive feedback, or they're just in that space. Keep saying it to them in different ways, asking them about it so that they stay focused on it too. So keep them in that space. Don't let them get off the hook. People don't like to be in that space, right? But help them to stay there. We can be a community of people who cheerlead each other, as well as folks outside of these walls, to pay attention to the good things. So that's number 2. So we're intentional, just being present, but also helping others do that too. So I do want to notice, these 2 things, isn't this what it means to be people of Advent? No wonder we read this text in Advent, right? In this season of darkness, we wait. And we are on the watch, right? That's the whole idea. We are watching for the light in the midst of darkness. We are looking for hope and goodness in the places where we are stuck, where our world is stuck, to be Advent people who savor joy, even as we feel the push of the surrounding negativity around us. And really, these 2 things, isn't this what Paul is doing here in his letter? He doesn't get into the science of it. Dear Thessalonians, just so you know, 12 seconds is all it takes to... he doesn't get into that, but his voice, that Advent voice, is a voice of presence, right? He's cheerleading them, saying, focus on the good, not because the hard and the rough are not there, but because we will miss it if we don't. So before we wrap up, I do just want to talk through, hold these 2 things alongside our practices. So these 2 kind of savoring joy practices, hold them alongside our Advent practice that we've named, that we're trying to practice this Advent season to be people who are Christmas present. So if you've missed the last 2 weeks, it's new to you. If not, this is a great time to just check in about how it's going for you. And as we do this, it is celebrate the good things. Celebrate what has been good and joyful in the midst of these practices. Let that rise to the surface and maybe reset some expectations about what you're able to do. And that's great, and that's good to do that too. Finesse things differently in the week that's to come. All right, so here to do Christmas present, we have been, number 1, we've been powering down. Our phones, unintentionally, often interrupt those 12 seconds of savoring, right? For a lot of different reasons. So we're just paying attention to our phone habits this Advent, paying attention to that. Second practice, we light candles. Specifically, we light Advent candles. We light them in our homes every day, adding a candle each Sunday, letting the light grow as we hope towards Christmas. And with those Advent candles, number 3, we are savoring the story. Each day, we've just assigned 2 to 3 verses from Luke's telling of Jesus' birth. And so we've been reading the Christmas story just a little bit at a time. We have the booklet. Our Advent booklet is available here if you need one, or it's also available online if you do not yet have one. You can dive into that reading even now. And then fourth and finally is the practice. It's the, if you only do one, do this one. Number 4, do it. And that is to meditate. And mindfulness meditation, it's like a workout for our brains, right? That we're practicing to help us grow the practice of focus. And you better believe that focusing on joy is something the practice of meditation can help us to do. I didn't research the best options. I've been really direct and open about that, but I have enjoyed the app Headspace, which is also accessible at headspace.com, because yes, our phones can be used for good as well. And I can't make you meditate, but I just commend it to you as a great practice. So I wonder, which of those practices have you tried? What have you been doing? What have been the great moments of being present so far? So keep playing with these practices, and remember, it's just there for you as resources, so there's no grade at the end. So how did you do for Advent? Okay, none of that, but just use it as great ways to be present. So as we close, I do want to come back to our text, this letter from Paul. Focus in with me one last time. So is he saying, just grin and bear it, guys, because that's what Jesus wants you to do? Is that what he's saying? You don't have to look at the screen yet, so I'm just asking you a question. Is he saying, grin and bear it, guys? Is that? No, he's not. He's not saying that at all. So there's so much more than meets the eye in our text, which we've just touched a little bit on. Jesus actually doesn't want us to be people who just, I'm fine. He actually doesn't want that. The Jesus story that unfolds as God comes in the flesh to be among us and to feel all the things with us as one of us. This is a story that invites us into what we've said before, wholeheartedness. And it is our story, right? A life of feeling all the things, which is only really possible when we are people who are present and who savor the good too. So Paul actually gets into this as he closes the text. So he says this, which we've already heard, but here it is again. Now may the God of peace himself make you completely holy. May your complete spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus the Messiah. Our complete body, soul, spirit, soul, body, he says, wholeness. He's talking about integratedness. This is what Paul prays for Thessalonica, for us, wholeness, which includes joy that slips into our memory and our story when we take time to savor it. And the final thing that we'll name here is that all of this, everything that we've talked about, the being present and savoring and being intentional, it's not just done on our own steam, right? But thankfully, through the generous Spirit of God at work in us, it is possible. Paul's final word then in our text as it goes on, he says, the one who calls us is faithful. He will do it. Now that's good news. In a season where there's so many things that are asked of us, to remind us that we don't just do it on our own steam. God will do it. God will do it. And my friends, this is my prayer for us, that we lean into God's Spirit to receive the goodness of life in the moment, to let joy slip in. So now we're going to move into practicing presence together, knowing that God meets us in our showing up in the moment. That's where God is. So today we are going to meditate again using the audio from the Headspace app. This is day 3 of the 10 days that are free if you use the app. Again, there are so many ways to meditate and practice mindfulness, and as Jesus followers, we do it because the point of it is to become more present to the presence of God. So there'll be about 3 minutes, and so after the 3 minutes, we'll just keep kind of holding that space of being present and flow right into a song to sing or to listen if you need to, just be in that space of listening for what God is saying to us. This particular day, there's a video that Andy, the guy, he references that. I think we edited some of that out, but but it's a helpful image that describes how in meditation it's like we choose to sit on the side of the road and watch our thoughts go by. And there are cars, then are our thoughts. Sometimes there's lots of congestion, and much of the time we find ourselves like, one goes by, we just start running after it, right? Like, or we jump on board, or like we just get caught up in it. And like, so whenever that happens, we go, wait a minute, then we get back down, we come back and we sit down and just try to watch and observe again. So it's a helpful image to hold as we do this. So I invite you to get comfortable in your seat, feet on the floor, roll your shoulders back, sit up straight but comfortably, with your eyes forward with a soft focus. And let's be present together.
Hi, and welcome back.